The sound of Sophia's head hitting the bathroom stall door echoed through the empty girl's locker room like a gunshot. Blood trickled from her split lip as 3 senior girls stood over her, their designer shoes worth more than her entire wardrobe, forming a semicircle around her crumpled form. "This is what happens when nobodies forget their place," Madison Brennan hissed, her perfectly manicured nails digging into Sophia's hair, yanking her head back. "Did you really think you could just walk into our school and act like you belong here?" The security cameras had been spray-painted black. The gym teacher mysteriously called away. Even the janitor had been paid to disappear. They'd planned this perfectly. 3 of Northbridge Academy's most untouchable students against one new girl who nobody would believe. "Please," Sophia whispered, blood speckling the white tile floor. "Just let me go." "Let you go?" Chloe Vale laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "We're just getting started. See, Marcus told us all about how you disrespected him, how you think you're too good for us." Taylor Morrison cracked her knuckles, the same hands that had broken another girl's nose last year in an accident that her lawyer father had made disappear. "Hold her arms, girls. I want to make sure she remembers this lesson." They didn't know about the 9 years of MMA training. They didn't know about the black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu hidden beneath her oversized hoodie. They didn't know that Sophia Chen had been holding back for weeks, enduring their torment, following her instructor's code of only using violence as an absolute last resort. But as Taylor's fist pulled back, aimed at Sophia's face, something inside her finally snapped. The prey was about to become the predator. "Your mistake," Sophia said quietly, her voice changing from frightened to something far more dangerous, "was cornering me where no teachers could intervene." Madison's grip on her hair loosened slightly. "What?" In one fluid motion, Sophia twisted, using Madison's own grip as leverage to flip her over her shoulder. The queen bee of Northbridge Academy hit the bathroom floor with a sickening crunch, her scream cut short by the wind being knocked from her lungs. Chloe stumbled backward, her eyes wide with shock. "What the f—" She never finished the sentence. Sophia's roundhouse kick caught her in the stomach, sending her flying into the sink. The mirror cracked from the impact. Taylor, the enforcer, the one who'd terrorized freshmen for 3 years, stood frozen for a split second. Then she charged with a roar of rage. It was the worst decision of her life. Sophia ducked under her wild swing, grabbed her arm, and used Taylor's own momentum to drive her face first into the metal towel dispenser. The bully crumpled to the floor, blood streaming from her broken nose. 7 seconds, that's all it had taken. 3 18-year-old bullies who'd ruled Northbridge Academy through fear and intimidation were on the ground, groaning in pain, while the nobody new girl stood in the center of the bathroom, not even breathing hard. But Sophia had made one crucial mistake. She didn't know someone had been recording through a crack in the door. Within 1 hour, the video would have 100,000 views. Within 3 hours, Sophia Chen would become the most famous high school student in America. And within 24 hours, everything at Northbridge Academy would change forever. But in that moment, as she stood over her tormentors, Sophia only knew one thing: she was done being anyone's victim. The war for Northbridge Academy had just begun. The morning fog hung thick over Ridgemont Valley as Sophia Chen made her way through the iron gates of Northbridge Academy. Her breath formed small clouds in the crisp autumn air, and she pulled her worn denim jacket tighter around her slight frame. At 16, she had perfected the art of invisibility. Or at least that's what she told herself every morning as she walked through those gates. Her dark hair fell in gentle waves past her shoulders, often obscuring her face like a protective curtain. Behind wire-rimmed glasses that seemed perpetually smudged, her amber eyes took in everything while revealing nothing. This was her 4th school in 5 years. Her mother, Colonel Rebecca Chen, had promised this would be the last move until graduation. The Air Force base just outside town was supposedly a permanent posting, though Sophia had learned not to put too much faith in the word permanent. She'd heard it before in San Diego, in Virginia, in Germany. Each time, she'd barely settled in before the inevitable transfer orders arrived. What her classmates at Northbridge didn't know, what she made sure they never discovered, was that beneath her oversized hoodies and quiet demeanor lay 9 years of intensive combat training. Her mother had enrolled her in karate classes when she was 7, right after a particularly nasty incident at her first elementary school. From there, it had evolved into something more comprehensive: Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, tactical defense training. 3 hours every evening, 6 days a week, for nearly a decade. Her instructor, Master Kim, often joked that she could probably take him down now if she really wanted to. The joke wasn't far from the truth, but Sophia had learned early that revealing this side of herself only complicated things. At her school in Virginia, word had gotten out about her training after she'd accidentally broken a boy's nose during a mandatory self-defense demonstration in PE class. The rest of that year had been a nightmare of people either treating her like a circus freak or trying to provoke her into fights to prove something. When the transfer orders came, she'd actually been relieved. Northbridge Academy was nothing like her previous schools. Where the base schools had been functional concrete blocks, Northbridge sprawled across 20 acres of manicured lawns and century-old buildings. The student parking lot was filled with BMWs and Teslas, not the beaten pickup trucks and practical sedans she was used to. Her mother had fought hard to get her enrolled here. Apparently, the education was worth the 40-minute commute each way. The social hierarchy at Northbridge was as rigid as any military rank structure, though far less merit-based. At the apex sat 3 boys who moved through the hallways like they owned them, because in many ways they did. Marcus Brennan was their undisputed leader. Tall and lean, with carefully styled blonde hair and eyes the color of winter ice, he was the son of a federal judge and a pharmaceutical executive. His family had donated the new science wing, which probably explained why teachers seemed to develop selective blindness whenever he was involved in anything questionable. He dressed like he'd stepped out of a fashion magazine: designer jeans, Italian leather shoes, shirts that probably cost more than Sophia's entire wardrobe. His right hand was Jake Morrison, built like a tank from 4 years on the varsity wrestling team. Where Marcus was calculated and cold, Jake was all brute force and crude humor. His father owned half the commercial real estate in town, and Jake seemed to think this gave him carte blanche to do whatever he wanted. His thick neck and perpetually red face gave him the appearance of someone always on the verge of explosion. The third member of their trio was Connor Vale, and he was perhaps the most unsettling of all. Thin and sharp-featured, with dark hair that fell across his forehead, Connor had a way of looking at people that made them feel like insects under a magnifying glass. He was brilliant, everyone knew that. He'd won the state science fair 3 years running and was already taking college-level math courses. But he used his intelligence like a weapon, finding people's weaknesses and exploiting them with surgical precision. Sophia had been at Northbridge for exactly 3 weeks, and so far she'd managed to stay off their radar. She ate lunch in the library, took the long way around to avoid the spots where they held court, and kept her head down in the classes she shared with any of them. She'd mapped out the danger zones within her first few days: the alcove behind the gymnasium where they ambushed freshmen, the third-floor bathroom where they conducted their business meetings, the parking lot corner where they smoked and held their little kingdom's court. Her strategy might have worked indefinitely if not for a simple twist of fate on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday morning. Sophia was rushing to AP Chemistry, arms full of books because her backpack zipper had broken that morning. She rounded the corner near the science wing at full speed and crashed directly into Jake Morrison. Her books went flying, scattering across the polished floor like fallen leaves. Jake's coffee, some elaborate drink from the boutique cafe down the street, exploded across his shirt. "What the hell?" Jake roared, looking down at the spreading brown stain across his white designer shirt. His face went from red to purple in seconds. "I'm so sorry," Sophia said immediately, dropping to her knees to gather her scattered belongings. "I wasn't looking where I was going." "You're damn right you're sorry," Jake snarled. He planted his foot on one of her textbooks as she reached for it. "Do you have any idea how much this shirt cost?" "I said I was sorry," Sophia repeated, trying to pull her book free without looking up at him. She could feel other students stopping to watch, that particular tension that filled the air when something was about to happen. "Sorry doesn't fix my shirt, does it?" Jake pressed harder on the book. "What's your name?" Sophia finally looked up, meeting his eyes for just a moment before looking away. "Sophia." "Sophia," he repeated, drawing out each syllable like he was tasting them. "You're that new girl, aren't you? The one who thinks she's too good to talk to anyone." "I don't think that," Sophia said quietly, still trying to retrieve her book. "Then why haven't I seen you around? Why don't you eat in the cafeteria like normal people?" Before Sophia could answer, another voice cut through the growing crowd. "Is there a problem here?" Marcus Brennan had arrived, flanked by Connor. He surveyed the scene with those cold blue eyes, taking in Jake's stained shirt, Sophia on her knees, the scattered books. "This little nobody just destroyed my shirt," Jake explained, finally lifting his foot off Sophia's textbook. Marcus crouched down, ostensibly to help Sophia gather her things, but his proximity felt more like a threat than assistance. "That's quite careless of you," he said conversationally, handing her a notebook. "Jake's very particular about his appearance." "It was an accident," Sophia said, taking the notebook and standing up quickly. "Accidents have consequences," Connor chimed in, that unsettling smile playing at his lips. "That's just basic causality." Marcus stood as well, positioning himself between Sophia and the hallway beyond. "I think what my friends are trying to say is that you owe Jake here some form of compensation." "I'll pay for the dry cleaning," Sophia offered, though she knew that would eat into her carefully budgeted allowance for the month. Jake laughed, an ugly sound. "Dry cleaning? This shirt is ruined. It's a $200 shirt." Sophia's eyes widened slightly. $200 for a shirt? That was more than she spent on clothes in an entire year. "I don't have that kind of money," she said honestly. "Then I guess you'll have to find another way to make it up to him," Marcus said smoothly. "We're reasonable people. I'm sure we can work something out." The bell rang for class, but nobody moved. The crowd of onlookers had grown, all of them waiting to see what would happen next. "I have to get to class," Sophia said, trying to step around Marcus. He shifted slightly, blocking her path again. "Class can wait. This is more important." "No, it's not," Sophia said, a hint of steel entering her voice. "Let me pass." Marcus and Connor exchanged glances, and something unspoken passed between them. "Of course," Marcus said, stepping aside with exaggerated courtesy. "We wouldn't want to make you late." "But this conversation isn't over, Sophia. We'll be seeing you around." The threat in his words was unmistakable. Sophia hurried past them, feeling their eyes on her back all the way to the chemistry lab. That afternoon, she found her locker filled with coffee grounds. They'd somehow gotten it open and dumped what must have been several pounds of used grounds inside, coating all her books and notebooks in sticky, dark residue. A note was taped to the inside of the door. "This is what happens to careless people." Sophia spent an hour cleaning out her locker, salvaging what she could. Several textbooks were ruined, and she knew she'd have to explain to her mother why she needed replacements. She could report this to the administration, but she'd been at enough schools to know how that would go. Without proof of who did it, and everyone would claim ignorance, she'd just be labeled a snitch, and things would get worse. The harassment escalated gradually over the next week. Her homework would disappear from her bag, only to reappear in the trash. Anonymous notes appeared on her desk with crude comments about her appearance, her clothes, her obvious poverty compared to the other students. Someone started an Instagram account called Northbridge Nobody, featuring unflattering photos of her taken without her knowledge, each one captioned with increasingly cruel commentary. Through it all, Sophia maintained her composure. At night, she would work out her frustration in the garage her mother had converted into a training space. The heavy bag took the brunt of her anger, her fists and feet connecting with precise, powerful strikes that would have hospitalized anyone on the receiving end. Master Kim would have been proud of her form, even as he would have cautioned her about the anger behind it. "You're hitting harder than usual," her mother observed one evening, watching from the doorway. "Want to talk about it?" "Just school stuff," Sophia said between combinations. "Nothing I can't handle." Her mother, still in her Air Force uniform from the day, stepped into the garage. "Define handle. I'm not getting into fights, if that's what you're asking." Sophia executed a perfect spinning back kick that made the 100-pound bag swing wildly. "But you're being targeted." It wasn't a question. Rebecca Chen had spent 20 years reading people in high-stakes situations. She could read her daughter like an open book. "It's nothing physical," Sophia said, grabbing the bag to stop it swinging. "Just some rich kids who think they own the place. You know you can report." "Mom, please. I've got this. 3 more semesters and we're done. I can handle 3 semesters. Her mother looked like she wanted to argue, but eventually nodded. "Just remember what Master Kim taught you. Violence is the last resort, I know." Sophia had heard this lecture 100 times. "Trust me, I'm not looking for a fight." The problem was, the fight was looking for her. 2 weeks after the coffee incident, things took a darker turn. Sophia had stayed late to work on a history project in the library. The building was mostly empty, just a few other students scattered around, and the elderly librarian, Mrs. Patterson, who was known for falling asleep at her desk by 4 o'clock. Sophia was packing up her things when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned to find Marcus, Jake, and Connor blocking the aisle between the bookshelves. "Working hard?" Marcus asked conversationally, though his presence here was anything but casual. "Library's closing soon," Sophia said, zipping her backpack. "I was just leaving." "That's funny," Connor said, pulling out his phone. "According to the school website, it doesn't close for another hour." "Then I guess you have plenty of time to study," Sophia said, trying to push past them. Jake stepped directly into her path. "We're not here to study." "Then what do you want?" Sophia asked, though she was already calculating escape routes. The library's layout offered several possibilities, but all of them would require her to get past at least one of them. "We want to talk about your attitude problem," Marcus said. "You've been here over a month now, and you still act like you're better than everyone else." "I don't act like anything," Sophia said. "I just want to be left alone." "See, that's the problem," Connor interjected. "Northbridge has a certain social order. Everyone has their place. And you haven't found yours yet." "Maybe because I don't need you to assign me one?" Sophia shot back, her patience finally fraying. Jake's face darkened. "Watch your mouth." Or what? The words were out before Sophia could stop them. Weeks of harassment had worn down her control. The 3 boys exchanged glances again, and Marcus smiled, a cold, predatory expression. "Jake, didn't you say you needed a new essay for English? Something about symbolism in The Great Gatsby?" Jake grinned. "Yeah, I did. Due tomorrow, too." "Well, Sophia here is clearly a dedicated student. I'm sure she'd be happy to help." "I'm not writing your essay for you," Sophia said flatly. "No?" Marcus pulled out his phone. "That's disappointing. I was hoping we could be friends. But if you want to be difficult," he turned the phone toward her, showing the Instagram page they'd created. Did you know we have over 300 followers now? Amazing how interested people are in the daily life of a nobody. Sophia's jaw clenched. That's harassment. I could report you. Connor laughed. Report us? For what? Creating a social media account? There's nothing connecting us to it. IP addresses are wonderfully easy to mask if you know what you're doing. Besides, Marcus added, your word against ours. The daughter of the family who donated the science wing, the son of the man who owns half the town, and the kid who's probably going to MIT next year. Against the new girl no one knows anything about. They had her cornered, both literally and figuratively. Sophia could feel her heart rate increasing, not from fear, but from the familiar pre-combat adrenaline surge. Her body was preparing for a fight, muscle memory from thousands of hours of training kicking in. I won't write your essay, she said again, her voice steady. Jake stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne mixed with the lingering odor of cigarettes. Then we'll have to find another way for you to be useful. His hand moved toward her face, and Sophia reacted instinctively, catching his wrist and applying just enough pressure to make him wince. Don't touch me, she said quietly. For a moment, surprise flickered across all three faces. Jake tried to pull his hand back, but Sophia's grip was iron. Let go, he growled. Sophia released him and stepped back. Leave me alone. All of you. This is your only warning. Connor was watching her with new interest, like a scientist who just observed an unexpected result. That was interesting. Where did you learn that? Does it matter? Just stay away from me. She pushed past them this time and they let her go, though she could feel their eyes following her all the way to the library exit. That night, Sophia told her mother everything. Rebecca Chen listened with the controlled calm of someone used to processing tactical information. I can call the school, her mother offered, or the police. What they're doing is criminal. No, Sophia said. That'll just make everything worse. You know how these things go. They'll get a slap on the wrist if that, and then the retaliation will be 10 times worse. So, what do you want to do? Sophia was quiet for a long moment. I want to handle it myself. My way. Her mother studied her. Your way doesn't involve violence, I hope. Not if I can avoid it. But Mom, if they put their hands on me again, then you defend yourself, her mother said firmly. No one has the right to touch you without permission. No one. The next 2 days passed in tense silence. Marcus, Jake, and Connor seemed to be regrouping, planning something. Sophia could see them watching her, heads together in whispered conversations that stopped whenever she walked by. The Instagram account had gone quiet, which somehow felt more ominous than the daily posts. On Thursday afternoon, everything came to a head. Sophia had stayed after school for a makeup quiz in calculus. The math wing was on the 3rd floor of the oldest building on campus, a maze of narrow hallways and sharp corners. She finished her quiz and headed for the stairwell, mentally reviewing her answers. They were waiting for her in the stairwell. The east stairwell was the most isolated in the building, which is why she usually avoided it. But the other stairwells were locked after 4 p.m. for security reasons, leaving this as the only exit. They'd planned this. Marcus was leaning against the wall on the landing, looking like he'd been waiting there all afternoon. Jake stood a few steps below him, blocking the downward path, while Connor was positioned above, cutting off any retreat. Hello, Sophia, Marcus said pleasantly. Fancy meeting you here. Move, Sophia said simply. We need to talk about the other day, Marcus continued as if she hadn't spoken. You showed us something interesting in the library. That little wrist grab thing. Connor's been doing research and he has a theory. I think you're trained in something, Connor said from above. Martial arts, maybe. Self-defense. It would explain a lot. The way you move, how you're always so aware of your surroundings, why you change for PE in the bathroom stalls. Sophia said nothing, but her silence was confirmation enough. That's actually perfect, Marcus said. See, we've been thinking about this all wrong. We don't need you to write essays or do homework. We need entertainment. Entertainment, Sophia echoed. There's good money in underground fights, Jake said, cracking his knuckles. High school kids love that stuff. We could set up matches, take bets. With your skills, whatever they are, you could make us all rich. You're insane, Sophia said. I'm not fighting for your amusement. No, Marcus pushed off from the wall. That's disappointing. We were hoping you'd be reasonable. But if you won't cooperate, Connor added, we'll have to find other ways to motivate you. Like what? Sophia challenged, though she was already shifting her weight, preparing for whatever came next. Well, Jake said, climbing a step closer, we could start with something simple, like explaining to everyone exactly why you're so secretive. I bet people would love to know what you're hiding. Or, Marcus said, we could make your life here so miserable that you'll beg us to let you fight instead. Or, Connor said, and there was something dark in his voice, we could just see how tough you really are right now. The stairwell suddenly felt much smaller. Sophia's training kicked in, her mind automatically cataloging threats, distances, potential weapons. 3 opponents, limited space, concrete surfaces that would hurt if she hit them. But also, they were overconfident, untrained, and had no idea what she was actually capable of. Last chance, she said, her voice dropping to a register her mother would have recognized as dangerous. Walk away. Now. Jake laughed. Or what? You'll hurt us? 3 against 1? I don't want to hurt anyone, Sophia said truthfully. But I will if you make me. Make you? Jake took another step up. Little girl, you don't even know what... His hand shot out, aiming to grab her arm. It never connected. Sophia moved with a fluidity that seemed impossible, deflecting his grab with her forearm while simultaneously stepping inside his reach. Her palm strike to his solar plexus was precise and measured, enough to knock the wind out of him without causing permanent damage. Jake doubled over, gasping, and she used his momentum to guide him headfirst into the wall, not hard enough to knock him out, but hard enough to ring his bell. Connor reacted faster than she expected, launching himself down the stairs at her. But launching yourself downstairs at someone trained in jiu-jitsu is like gift-wrapping yourself for a throw. Sophia caught his arm, pivoted on her heel, and used a perfect hip throw to send him sailing over Jake's crumpled form. He hit the landing hard, his breath exploding from his lungs in a painful wheeze. Marcus had a second to process what had happened. His 2 friends, both bigger than Sophia, taken down in less than 3 seconds, before she turned to face him. Don't, she said simply. But Marcus Brennan wasn't used to backing down. He'd never been in a real fight in his life, but he'd watched enough movies to think he knew what to do. He threw a wild haymaker that Sophia could have dodged in her sleep. She caught his fist in her hand, twisted his wrist just enough to lock the joint, and drove her knee into his thigh, a Charlie horse that would hurt like hell but wouldn't cause lasting damage. Marcus dropped like a stone, crying out in pain. The entire confrontation had lasted less than 10 seconds. Sophia stood in the center of the stairwell, her breathing controlled, her stance still ready. Jake was groaning against the wall, holding his stomach. Connor was flat on his back, struggling to breathe. Marcus was curled on his side, clutching his leg. I warned you, she said quietly. I asked you to leave me alone, multiple times. You didn't listen. She stepped over Marcus, heading down the stairs, then paused. If any of you come near me again, if you so much as look at me wrong, I won't hold back next time. And trust me, this was me holding back. She left them there, walking calmly out of the building into the afternoon sunlight. Only when she was a block away did she allow her hands to shake, the adrenaline finally catching up with her. What Sophia didn't know was that the entire incident had been witnessed. A freshman named Emma Park had been in the bathroom on that floor and heard the commotion. She'd peered around the corner just in time to see Sophia take down all 3 boys with an efficiency that looked like something out of an action movie. More importantly, she'd had the presence of mind to record it on her phone. By the next morning, the video had been viewed by half the school. Sophia arrived at Northbridge to find the hallways buzzing with excitement. People she'd never spoken to were staring at her, whispering behind their hands. She caught fragments of conversation as she passed, took down all 3 of them. Less than 10 seconds, like something out of a movie. Marcus Brennan on the ground crying. She made it to her locker to find a small crowd gathered there. They parted as she approached, watching her with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. "Is it true?" a girl named Jessica asked. "Did you really beat up Marcus and his friends?" "I defended myself," Sophia corrected. "There's a difference." "The video shows you destroying them," a boy said, holding up his phone. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" Before Sophia could answer, the PA system crackled to life. "Sophia Chen, please report to Principal Davidson's office immediately." Sophia Chen to the principal's office. The crowd made sympathetic noises. Everyone knew what a summons to Davidson's office meant. The principal was known for his zero-tolerance policy on fighting. Sophia made her way to the administrative wing, her mind already preparing for the worst. Expulsion was a real possibility. At minimum, she was looking at a lengthy suspension. Her mother would be called. There would be discussions about anger management, appropriate conflict resolution, possibly even legal action if any of the boys' parents decided to press charges. Principal Davidson's office was exactly what you'd expect from a prestigious private school. Dark wood paneling, leather furniture, diplomas and awards covering the walls. The man himself sat behind a massive oak desk, his expression unreadable. "Miss Chen," he said, gesturing to a chair. "Please, sit." Sophia sat, her back straight, hands folded in her lap. "I've reviewed the security footage from yesterday afternoon," Davidson began. "Multiple angles, in fact. The stairwell incident was quite thoroughly documented." Sophia's heart sank. Of course there were cameras. Schools like Northbridge had security systems that would make casinos jealous. "I've also," Davidson continued, "reviewed footage from the past several weeks. The library confrontation, the coffee incident, various hallway encounters, your locker being vandalized. Yes, we have cameras covering the lockers as well." He turned his computer monitor toward her, showing a clear image of Jake picking the lock on her locker while Connor kept watch. "What I'm trying to understand," Davidson said, leaning back in his chair, "is why you never reported any of this." Sophia blinked in surprise. This wasn't the conversation she'd expected. I didn't think it would help," she admitted. "In my experience, reporting bullying just makes things worse." "In your experience," Davidson repeated. "You've dealt with this before?" "Different schools, same story," Sophia said quietly. "Military kids are always easy targets. We're outsiders. We don't have established friend groups. We're usually gone before anyone has to face consequences for how they treat us." Davidson was quiet for a moment, studying her. "Your mother is Colonel Rebecca Chen, correct? Air Force?" "Yes, sir." "I served in the Marines," Davidson said unexpectedly. 20 years before I got into education. I have great respect for military families and the sacrifices they make." He turned the monitor back toward himself and pulled up another file. "Your transcript is impressive, Miss Chen. Straight A's despite attending 4 different schools. Advanced placement classes, honor roll, exemplary conduct reports from all your previous schools. And yet, within weeks of arriving here, you're involved in a violent altercation." "They cornered me," Sophia said, a hint of defensiveness creeping into her voice. "They were going to—" "I know exactly what they were going to do," Davidson interrupted. "Mr. Morrison has a history of inappropriate behavior that we've been monitoring. Mr. Vale has been suspected of cyberbullying, but we've never had proof until now. And Mr. Brennan, he sighed. Mr. Brennan has been a problem we've been unable to address due to his family's influence. Sophia wasn't sure where this was going. The video that's circulating shows only the physical confrontation, Davidson continued. What it doesn't show is Mr. Morrison attempting to grab you first, which the security footage clearly captures. It doesn't show the weeks of harassment you endured before defending yourself, and it certainly doesn't show the restraint you exercised even while defending yourself. Restraint? Sophia echoed. Davidson pulled up another screen, this one showing what looked like medical reports. Mr. Morrison has bruised ribs and a mild concussion. Mr. Vale has a bruised tailbone and temporary respiratory distress. Mr. Brennan has a severe Charlie horse and bruised ego. Given what I saw you were capable of in that video, Miss Chen, these are remarkably minor injuries. You could have seriously hurt them. I only wanted them to stop, Sophia said. I'm trained to defend myself, not to hurt people unnecessarily. Trained by whom, if you don't mind my asking? Master Kim at Rising Sun Martial Arts. 9 years of mixed martial arts, focusing on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. My mother insisted I learn self-defense. Davidson nodded slowly. Smart woman. Now, here's what's going to happen. Mr. Morrison, Mr. Vale, and Mr. Brennan have all been suspended pending a full investigation. Mr. Morrison is facing potential criminal charges for attempted assault. The cyberbullying campaign will be thoroughly investigated and appropriate actions will be taken. What about me? Sophia asked. You were defending yourself against assault, Davidson said simply. The video evidence is clear. You're not in any trouble, Miss Chen. In fact, I owe you an apology. This harassment should never have been allowed to continue for as long as it did. We failed in our duty to provide you with a safe learning environment. Sophia felt a wave of relief wash over her, followed immediately by concern. Their parents will be dealt with, Davidson said firmly. Mr. Brennan Sr. may have donated a building, but that doesn't give his son the right to terrorize other students. The board has been looking for a reason to address this problem for some time. You've given us the ammunition we needed. He stood, indicating the meeting was coming to an end. There is one more thing, he said. Our PE department has been trying to start a self-defense program for students, particularly for the young women. Would you be interested in assisting with that? Paid, of course. We could use someone with your skills and, more importantly, your restraint. Sophia stood as well, a small smile crossing her face for the first time. I'd like that. As she turned to leave, Davidson called after her, Miss Chen, welcome to Northbridge. Really welcome this time. The walk back to class was surreal. The hallways, which had felt hostile for weeks, suddenly seemed different. Students stepped aside to let her pass, but not out of mockery or disdain. There was respect in their eyes, even a little fear from some, but mostly respect. She found her calculus class in chaos, everyone discussing the video. When she walked in, the room fell silent. Then, unexpectedly, someone started clapping. It was Jessica, the girl who'd asked her about the fight that morning. Others joined in, and soon the entire class was applauding. Okay, Mr. Peterson, the calculus teacher said, though he was smiling. That's enough. Miss Chen, please take your seat. We have derivatives to discuss. As Sophia sat down, the girl next to her, Rachel, someone she'd never spoken to before, leaned over. That was incredible, she whispered. I've wanted to see someone put Marcus in his place for 3 years. I didn't do it to be a hero, Sophia whispered back. Doesn't matter, you're one anyway. The rest of the day continued in this strange new reality. People approached her constantly, some to congratulate her, others to share their own stories of harassment by Marcus and his crew. She learned that they'd been terrorizing students for years, but their victims had always been too afraid or too isolated to fight back. At lunch, instead of heading to the library, Sophia decided to brave the cafeteria. She'd barely sat down when a group of girls approached her table. "Can we sit?" one of them asked hesitantly. Sophia nodded, and soon her table was full. The questions came fast and furious. How long had she been training? Could she teach them some moves? Was it true she'd been holding back? "The thing is," Sophia said, after explaining the basics of her training, "fighting should always be the last resort. I tried everything else first. I avoided them. I tried to de-escalate. I asked them to leave me alone. Violence was literally my only remaining option." "But when it was," Rachel said admiringly, "you were ready." "That's the point of self-defense training," Sophia explained. "Not to look for fights, but to be prepared if a fight finds you." "Could you teach us?" Emma Park, the freshman who'd recorded the video, asked shyly. "I mean, I know the school is starting a program, but maybe some informal stuff too." Sophia looked around the table at the eager faces. "I could probably arrange something." The conversation was interrupted by a commotion at the cafeteria entrance. Marcus, Jake, and Connor had arrived, looking worse for wear. Jake was moving stiffly. Connor was limping slightly, and Marcus had a spectacular bruise developing on his thigh that was visible even through his jeans. The cafeteria fell silent as they entered. In the past, their arrival would have been met with deference, people scrambling to get out of their way or to gain their approval. Now they were met with cold stares and whispered comments. They got their food and looked for a place to sit, but their usual table was occupied by freshmen who pointedly ignored them. Every other table suddenly seemed full. Finally, they found seats in a corner, alone and isolated. The kings had been dethroned. After school, Sophia was packing up her things when she noticed someone hovering near her locker. It was Connor, alone and looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "What do you want?" Sophia asked, tensing slightly. Connor raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. "Just to talk, alone. No ambush, I promise." "You have 2 minutes." Connor nodded. "I wanted to apologize. Not because I have to, but because, well, yesterday was a wake-up call. When you threw me down those stairs for the first time in my life, I felt genuinely powerless. It was terrifying." "Now you know how your victims felt," Sophia said without sympathy. "Yeah, I'm starting to understand that." Connor rubbed his bruised tailbone ruefully. "Look, I know an apology doesn't fix anything, but I am sorry. The cyberbullying, the harassment. I told myself it was just having fun, but it wasn't. It was cruel." Sophia studied him. Unlike Jake's bravado or Marcus's cold calculation, Connor seemed genuinely reflective. "Why did you do it?" she asked. Connor was quiet for a moment. "Because I could. Because I was smart enough to not get caught, and that made me feel powerful. Because Marcus and Jake were the only people who seemed to appreciate my intelligence, even if they were just using it for their own purposes." He laughed bitterly. "Turns out being smart doesn't mean you can't be stupid." "No," Sophia agreed. "It doesn't. The Instagram account is gone," Connor said. "Permanently deleted. And I'll testify about Marcus and Jake's involvement if needed." "Turning on your friends." "They were never really my friends," Connor admitted. "I see that now. We were just 3 people who enjoyed having power over others. That's not friendship." He turned to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, what you did yesterday was amazing. Not just the fighting, though that was incredible, but standing up to us when no one else would. You changed things here. Maybe for the better." After he left, Sophia stood at her locker for a long moment, processing the conversation. She'd expected anger, threats, maybe even retaliation. She hadn't expected introspection. That evening, she found her mother waiting for her in the garage, already changed into workout clothes. "Heard you had an interesting day," Rebecca said, wrapping her hands. "Davidson called you." "He did. Gave me quite the rundown. 3 boys in 10 seconds. Less than 10, actually, Sophia said, starting her stretching routine. And you held back? Of course I held back. I'm not trying to go to jail. Her mother smiled. Master Kim would be proud. You used exactly the force necessary, no more. They sparred for an hour, her mother pushing her harder than usual, testing her reflexes and control. It felt good to move freely without holding back, without pretending to be weak. So, her mother said during a water break, Davidson mentioned they want you to help with a self-defense program. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I think you should do it. You have a lot to offer. Sophia nodded, then asked the question that had been bothering her. Do you think things will get better now? Or worse? Her mother considered this. Different. Change is never easy, especially when it challenges established power structures. Some people will resent you for it. Others will admire you. Most will just be glad someone finally stood up to those boys. I didn't want to be a hero, Sophia said. I just wanted to be left alone. Sometimes, her mother said, being a hero is just about being the person who says no more when everyone else is too afraid to speak up. The next week at school was an adjustment period for everyone. Marcus, Jake, and Connor returned from their suspensions to find their social kingdom in ruins. The fear they'd cultivated for years had evaporated overnight, replaced by contempt and mockery. Jake tried to maintain his tough guy image for about a day before giving up and keeping his head down. Marcus attempted to rally support from his family's influence, but Principal Davidson stood firm, and even the Brennan money couldn't buy back the respect Marcus had lost. Connor, surprisingly, seemed almost relieved by the change. He threw himself into his studies with renewed focus, and Sophia occasionally saw him eating lunch alone, reading thick textbooks, and looking more at peace than he ever had as part of the ruling trio. The self-defense program started 2 weeks after the incident. Sophia worked with Miss Martinez, the PE teacher, to develop a curriculum that focused on awareness, de-escalation, and basic defensive techniques. The first class drew over 50 students, mostly girls, but a surprising number of boys as well. The first thing you need to understand, Sophia told them, standing at the front of the gymnasium, is that self-defense isn't about being tough or aggressive. It's about being prepared and aware. Most dangerous situations can be avoided entirely if you're paying attention. She demonstrated basic stances, showed them how to break common holds, taught them the vulnerable points on an attacker's body. But more than the physical techniques, she emphasized the mental aspect, the importance of trusting their instincts, of not being afraid to make a scene if they felt threatened, of understanding that their safety was more important than being polite. After one session, a quiet sophomore named Amy approached her. I wish I'd known this stuff last year, she said quietly. Maybe then I could have stopped Marcus from... She didn't finish, but she didn't need to. Sophia understood. It's not your fault, Sophia said firmly. Whatever happened, it wasn't your fault. But now you know how to protect yourself going forward. Amy nodded, tears in her eyes. Thank you. For everything, not just the class, but for, showing them they couldn't just do whatever they wanted anymore. These conversations became common. Sophia learned just how many students had suffered under the reign of Marcus and his friends. The stories ranged from simple bullying to much darker incidents that should have been reported to the police. She encouraged those students to speak up now, to report what had happened, even if it was months or years ago. A month after the stairwell incident, Sophia was surprised to find Jake waiting by her locker. He looked different. The cocky swagger was gone, replaced by something almost humble. Can we talk? He asked. Sophia crossed her arms. Talk. Jake glanced around, clearly uncomfortable. Not here. Too many people watching. Maybe outside? Against her better judgment, Sophia agreed. They walked to the courtyard, finding a bench away from other students. "I wanted to apologize," Jake began, the words clearly difficult for him. "Really apologize, not just because I have to. Why should I believe you're sincere?" Jake was quiet for a moment. "My little sister is a freshman here, Ashley Morrison. She's nothing like me. Smart, kind, actually a good person. After what happened with you, she told me she was ashamed to be related to me." He paused, swallowing hard. "She told me about times when guys had cornered her, made her uncomfortable, and she'd been too scared to do anything about it because she knew I was one of the guys doing it to other girls. She said she couldn't even come to her own brother for help because I was part of the problem." Sophia saw genuine pain in his eyes. "That broke something in me," Jake continued, "realizing that my own sister was afraid of people like me, that she saw me as someone who would hurt girls rather than protect them." "What do you want from me?" Sophia asked. "Forgiveness. Absolution." "No," Jake said quickly. "I don't deserve that. I wanted you to know that what you did changed things, not just at school, but for me personally. I'm in therapy now, trying to figure out why I thought it was okay to treat people the way I did, and I'm trying to be better. For Ashley, if no one else." He stood to leave, then turned back. "I'm joining the self-defense class," he said. "Not to learn how to fight, but to understand what it feels like to be vulnerable, to remember that feeling you gave me in that stairwell, powerless and afraid. I never want to make anyone else feel that way again." After he left, Sophia sat on the bench for a while, processing the conversation. She'd expected Jake to be the least likely to change, but here he was, actually trying to confront his behavior. As the semester progressed, the culture at Northbridge continued to shift. The rigid social hierarchy that had allowed Marcus and his friends to terrorize others began to crumble. Students who had been afraid to speak up found their voices. The administration, finally freed from the influence of wealthy parents using their donations as leverage, implemented stronger anti-bullying policies. Sophia found herself at the center of these changes, though she hadn't sought the position. People came to her with problems, seeking advice or protection. She became known as someone who would stand up for others, who wouldn't tolerate injustice. "You've become something of a legend," Rachel told her one day at lunch. "The girl who took down the untouchables." "I just wanted to be left alone," Sophia reminded her. "Maybe," Rachel said, "but sometimes the universe has other plans." 3 months after the incident, Sophia was called to Principal Davidson's office again. This time she wasn't alone. Connor was there too, looking nervous. "Mr. Vale has come to me with some information," Davidson began. "Connor, would you like to explain?" Connor cleared his throat. "After everything that happened, I started paying attention to patterns I'd ignored before. Digital patterns, specifically. I noticed unusual activity on the school's network, grade changes, attendance record modifications, even some financial irregularities in student activity accounts." Sophia frowned. "What does this have to do with me?" "Nothing directly," Davidson said. "But Connor discovered that Marcus has been running quite the operation, selling grade changes, fake doctor's notes, even access to exam answers. He's been using his family's influence and connections to cover it up." "I have proof," Connor added, pulling out a flash drive. "Emails, transaction records, even recordings of him discussing prices with students. I know I was part of the problem before, but this is different. This is actual criminal fraud." Davidson took the flash drive. "This is very serious. With this evidence, we can finally take action that even the Brennan family can't buy their way out of." "Why are you telling me this?" Sophia asked. "Because some of the students Marcus was extorting were people you've been protecting," Davidson explained. "They might need support when this comes out. And frankly, Miss Chen, you've become something of a moral authority among the student body. Your support could make the difference between students coming forward or staying silent. Sophia looked at Connor. Why are you doing this? Really? Connor met her eyes. Because for the first time in my life, I want to use my abilities for something good. I was part of creating this toxic environment. Maybe I can be part of fixing it too. The scandal broke the following week. Marcus was expelled, and criminal charges were filed. The investigation revealed a network of corruption that had been festering at Northbridge for years, all centered around the influence of a few wealthy families who thought their money put them above the rules. The Brennan family tried to fight back, threatening to withdraw their donations, to sue the school, to destroy anyone who testified against their son. But the evidence was overwhelming, and the community support for the investigation was stronger than anyone had anticipated. Years of resentment against the special treatment given to certain students had finally found an outlet. Marcus left Northbridge in disgrace, his college prospects ruined, his family's reputation in tatters. Sophia saw him one last time, as he was cleaning out his locker under administrative supervision. Their eyes met across the hallway, and for a moment, she expected anger or threats. Instead, Marcus just looked empty. The cold confidence that had defined him was gone, replaced by someone who was finally facing consequences for the first time in his life. He left without saying a word. Spring came to Ridgemont Valley with an explosion of cherry blossoms that turned the Northbridge campus into something from a fairy tale. Sophia stood in the courtyard, watching pink petals drift like snow, when Emma Park ran up to her. "Sophia, did you hear? The self-defense program is getting expanded. They're making it part of the regular PE curriculum next year." Sophia smiled. The program had grown beyond anything she'd imagined. What started as a simple self-defense class had evolved into something more. A support network for students who'd been bullied or harassed. A safe space where they could share their experiences and learn to protect themselves both physically and emotionally. "That's great news," Sophia said. "And Miss Martinez wants you to be the official student coordinator," Emma added excitedly, "with an actual salary and everything." Before Sophia could respond, her phone buzzed. It was a text from her mother. "Call me. Important." Sophia's stomach dropped. She knew that tone. It meant only one thing. She called immediately. "Are we moving again?" There was a pause. Then her mother laughed. "No, sweetheart. The opposite. I've been offered a permanent position here. No more moves. You can finish high school at Northbridge." Sophia felt tears spring to her eyes. "Really? Really? Looks like you're stuck with that school of yours." After they hung up, Sophia stood in the courtyard, petals falling around her, and thought about how much had changed since that foggy morning 6 months ago when she'd first walked through Northbridge's gates. Connor approached, looking hesitant. They'd developed an odd sort of friendship over the months, not close but respectful. He'd thrown himself into using his computer skills for good, helping the administration identify and stop cyberbullying, even creating an anonymous reporting system for students who were afraid to come forward publicly. "I got into MIT," he said without preamble. "That's great," Sophia said, meaning it. "You deserve it." "I wrote about you in my application essay," he admitted, "about how one person standing up to bullies changed an entire school culture. About how true strength isn't about having power over others, but about protecting those who can't protect themselves. You wrote about yourself too, I hope, about changing, growing, making amends." Connor smiled slightly. "A little. But you were the catalyst. None of this would have happened if you hadn't stood up to us that day." "It would have happened eventually," Sophia said. "Someone would have stood up. Maybe. But it was you, and I'll always be grateful for that wake-up call, even if it came with bruises." Jake joined them, Still an unlikely addition to their group, but trying hard to be better, he'd become one of the most dedicated students in the self-defense program, not learning to fight, but learning to understand vulnerability and fear from the other side. "My sister wants to join the program," he said. "I told her she should." "Good," Sophia said. "Everyone should know how to protect themselves." "I've been thinking," Jake said slowly, "about starting a mentorship thing. Like older students who used to be bullies talking to younger kids about why it's wrong, what it really does to people." Connor said he'd help. Sophia looked between them. Connor, the cold genius who'd found empathy. Jake, the brutal enforcer who'd discovered remorse. 6 months ago, they'd been her tormentors. Now, they were actively working to undo the damage they'd caused. "I think that's a great idea," she said. As senior year approached, Sophia found herself looking forward to it rather than dreading it. She had friends now, real friends who knew her strength and didn't fear it. She had purpose beyond just surviving each day. She had a home that would actually remain home. The final self-defense class of the year drew over 100 students. Sophia stood before them, no longer the invisible new girl, but someone who'd helped reshape their entire school culture. "I want to leave you with one final thought," she said. "Self-defense isn't just about protecting your body. It's about protecting your spirit, your dignity, your right to exist in space without fear. It's about knowing that you have value and that no one, no matter how powerful or popular or wealthy, has the right to make you feel otherwise." She paused, looking at the faces before her. Some who'd been victims, some who'd been bullies, all of them learning and growing. "True strength," she continued, echoing words her mother had told her years ago, "isn't about being able to hurt others. It's about being able to protect yourself and choosing to protect others too. It's about standing up and saying no more when everyone else is too afraid to speak." The applause was thunderous. After class, Principal Davidson found her in the hallway. "Miss Chen," he said, "I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For being the catalyst this school needed. We had a toxic culture that we were too afraid or too compromised to address. You changed that." "I just defended myself," Sophia said. "No," Davidson disagreed. "You did much more than that. You showed everyone, students, faculty, even parents, that standing up to bullies is possible, that one person can make a difference." He handed her an envelope. "The school board wanted you to have this." Inside was a certificate of appreciation and a substantial check. "That's your salary for next year as our official student coordinator for the anti-bullying and self-defense programs," Davidson explained, "if you're interested." "I'm interested," Sophia said immediately. As she walked home that afternoon, Sophia thought about the strange journey that had brought her here. She'd arrived at Northbridge wanting nothing more than to be invisible, to survive until graduation without incident. Instead, she'd become the most visible student in school, but for all the right reasons. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She opened it cautiously, then smiled. It was from a student at another school. "Heard about what you did at Northbridge. We're dealing with similar problems here. Any advice?" Sophia typed back, "Stand up. Speak out. Don't fight unless you have to, but be ready if you do. And remember, bullies are only powerful when people are too afraid to challenge them." She hit send and continued walking home, cherry blossoms falling around her like pink snow, already planning next year's self-defense curriculum. She had work to do. The summer passed quickly. Sophia spent it training with Master Kim, who'd heard about the incident and was proud of how she'd handled herself. "You used your training exactly as intended," he told her during one session. "Defense, not offense. Control, not chaos. You showed true mastery." She also worked with the school administration to develop comprehensive anti-bullying protocols for the coming year. Connor, despite graduating, volunteered to help create a digital monitoring system that could identify potential cyberbullying before it escalated. Jake spent the summer in intensive therapy and volunteering at a local youth center, trying to make amends for his past behavior. When senior year began, Sophia walked through Northbridge's gates with confidence. She wasn't the new girl anymore. She was the girl who'd changed everything. The first day brought surprises. A freshman approached her nervously. "Are you Sophia Chen?" the girl asked. "I am. My older sister graduated from here 2 years ago. She said Marcus and his friends made her life hell, and she always wished someone would stand up to them. When she heard about what you did, she cried. She wanted me to thank you. These interactions became common. Alumni reached out, current students shared their stories, even parents expressed gratitude for the changes at the school. But perhaps the most surprising development came in October. Sophia was working with a group of students in the self-defense program when a familiar figure appeared in the doorway. Marcus Brennan stood there, but he looked nothing like the cold, confident bully she'd known. He was thinner, his expensive clothes replaced with simple jeans and a t-shirt, his perfect hair unstyled. The room went silent. Everyone knew who he was, what he'd done. "What are you doing here?" Sophia asked, stepping protectively in front of her students. "I need to talk to you," Marcus said quietly. "Please. 5 minutes." Every instinct told her to refuse, but something in his demeanor made her pause. This wasn't the Marcus who'd terrorized the school. This was someone broken. 5 minutes, she agreed, following him into the hallway. "Talk." Marcus struggled to find words. "I've been in therapy. Intensive therapy. And I've had to confront a lot of things about myself that I didn't want to see." "Good for you," Sophia said without sympathy. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Marcus continued quickly. "I know I don't deserve that. But I wanted to tell you that what you did, standing up to me, it saved me." "Saved you?" Sophia couldn't hide her skepticism. "I was on a path that would have ended badly," Marcus explained. "My therapist helped me see that. The entitlement, the cruelty, the belief that money and power meant I could do whatever I wanted. It was escalating. If you hadn't stopped me when you did, I would have done something even worse eventually, something that couldn't be undone." He pulled out an envelope and handed it to her. "What's this?" "A donation to the self-defense program. Anonymous. It's not an apology. Money can't fix what I did. But maybe it can help protect others from people like who I used to be." Sophia took the envelope. "Why tell me? If it's anonymous, because I needed you to know that I understand what I was, and that I'm trying to be better, not for forgiveness or redemption, just because it's the right thing to do." He turned to leave, then paused. "Thank you," he said, "for stopping me. For stopping all of us. You saved more people than you know, including the people we would have become if we'd been allowed to continue." After he left, Sophia opened the envelope. The check inside was substantial, enough to fund the program for 2 years. She stood in the hallway for a long moment, processing what had just happened. She'd never expected any of them to truly change, especially not Marcus. But here was evidence that even the worst bullies could potentially recognize their wrongs and try to make amends. When she returned to the training room, her students looked at her expectantly. "What did he want?" Emma asked. "To donate to the program," Sophia said simply, "and to acknowledge what he'd done wrong." "Do you forgive him?" another student asked. Sophia considered the question. "Forgiveness isn't mine to give. He hurt a lot of people, not just me. But I can acknowledge that he's trying to change, and that's something." The year progressed with more changes. The mentorship program Jake had proposed became official, with former bullies speaking to younger students about the real impact of their actions. Connor's anti-cyber bullying system was adopted by several other schools in the district. The self-defense program expanded to include conflict resolution and emotional support components. Sophia found herself at the center of it all, a role she'd never wanted but had grown into. She wasn't just teaching physical defense anymore. She was helping create a culture where students felt safe, valued, and empowered. One evening in February, she was working late in the gym, preparing for the next day's class, when Jake and Connor appeared. "We have something to tell you," Connor said. "We're starting a non-profit," Jake added, "after we graduate. An organization that goes to schools to address bullying, runs self-defense programs, share our stories. We want you to be part of it," Connor said, "as a co-founder." Sophia was stunned. "You want me to work with you? After everything?" "Because of everything," Jake corrected. "We need someone who understands both sides, the victim and the defender, someone who can speak to why standing up matters. And," Connor added, "we need someone who won't let us slide back into old patterns, someone who'll keep us honest." Sophia thought about it. A year ago, these two had been her tormentors. Now they were offering her a partnership in something meaningful. "I'll think about it," she said. March brought college acceptance letters. Sophia got into her top choice, a university with an excellent criminal justice program and a strong martial arts team. Connor was headed to MIT as planned. Jake, surprisingly, had been accepted to a state school where he planned to study social work. "Social work?" Sophia had asked when he told her. "I want to help kids like I was," Jake explained. "Kids who think violence and intimidation are the only ways to feel powerful. Show them there are better ways." As graduation approached, Sophia found herself reflecting on her journey at Northbridge. She'd arrived as the invisible new girl, desperate to avoid attention. She was leaving as someone who'd fundamentally changed the school's culture. The night before graduation, there was a special ceremony for student leaders. Sophia was surprised to receive the principal's award for exceptional character and leadership. "Sophia Chen," Principal Davidson said as he presented the award, "came to Northbridge seeking nothing more than a peaceful place to complete her education. Instead, she became the catalyst for transformational change. She showed us that one person standing up for what's right can inspire others to do the same. She turned her personal struggle into a movement that has made our school safer and more inclusive for all students." The applause was overwhelming. As Sophia stood on the stage, looking out at the audience, students she'd trained, bullies who'd reformed, teachers who'd supported the changes, she realized that sometimes the best things come from the worst situations. After the ceremony, her mother found her outside, looking at the stars. "Proud of you," Rebecca said simply. "I never wanted any of this," Sophia said. "The attention, the responsibility. I know, but you handled it with grace and strength. You didn't just defend yourself, you changed an entire community." "They changed themselves," Sophia corrected. "I just showed them it was possible." Her mother smiled. "That's leadership, sweetheart. Showing others what's possible and inspiring them to achieve it." Graduation day dawned bright and clear. As Sophia walked across the stage to receive her diploma, the crowd erupted. She saw faces in the audience, students she'd trained, parents whose children she'd helped, even some of the bullies who'd tormented her, now reformed and cheering for her. After the ceremony, she was surrounded by people wanting to thank her, to take pictures, to wish her well. Through the crowd, she saw Marcus standing at a distance. He nodded once, an acknowledgement, not seeking forgiveness but offering respect, then disappeared. Connor and Jake found her as the crowd dispersed. "So," Connor said, "have you thought about our offer?" Sophia looked at them, her former tormentors, now her unlikely allies, in fighting the very behavior they'd once embodied. "Yes," she said. "I'm in." That evening, as Sophia packed up her room, she found the keychain Vince, Travis and Dylan had given her that first year. The tiny brass knuckles with the note thanking her for the wake-up call. She'd kept it as a reminder of how much had changed. Her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was a girl from another state who'd heard her story. "I'm being bullied at my school. I'm scared to stand up. What should I do?" Sophia typed back, "First, tell someone you trust. Document everything. Try to resolve it peacefully if possible, but if they put their hands on you, defend yourself. You have the right to be safe. You have the right to exist without fear. And remember, bullies are only powerful when we let them be." She hit send, then added, "And if you need to talk, I'm here." As she finished packing, Sophia thought about the future. College would bring new challenges, but she was ready for them. The non-profit with Connor and Jake would be difficult. Working with former enemies always was, but it could make a real difference. Her mother knocked on the door. "Ready for the next adventure?" Sophia looked around the room that had been her sanctuary during the most transformative year of her life. "Yeah," she said. "I'm ready." As they drove away from Northbridge for the last time as a student, Sophia saw a group of freshmen practicing self-defense moves on the lawn, techniques she'd taught them. One girl executed a perfect defensive stance, and Sophia smiled. The legacy would continue long after she was gone. The culture had changed. Students knew they could stand up, speak out, defend themselves. The reign of fear was over, and it had all started with one girl who refused to be a victim, who stood up when everyone else was too afraid, who showed that true strength wasn't about domination, but about protection of yourself and others. As the school disappeared in the rearview mirror, Sophia's phone buzzed with another message from someone seeking advice, someone who'd heard her story and found hope in it. She smiled and began typing a response. The work wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But that was okay. She was ready for it. After all, she'd been training for this her whole life, not just in martial arts, but in courage, in standing up for what was right, in showing others that they too could be strong. The new girl who'd wanted to be invisible had become a beacon for others finding their way through darkness. And while she'd never sought that role, she'd embraced it fully. Because sometimes the most important fights aren't the ones we choose. They're the ones that choose us. And when they do, we can either back down or stand up. Sophia Chen had stood up, and in doing so, she'd shown countless others that they could too.